In our research for this dress, we looked at all kinds of materials. The one that excited me the most was from University of Cambridge. It's based on a chameleon. Professor Jeremy Baumgartner has created this material. As you stretch it, it changes colors, just like a chameleon. And the challenge, though, is how do you tell the dress what color you want it to be? So a system like IBM Watson or some sort of artificial intelligence system can smartly stretch this thing to the color that you need. So that's why I'm seeing this big integration with AI and materials. That's my excitement.
So I think Kristine, really nice lecture. Thank you so much. What I find really interesting is related to your presentation, the part about how do you create innovative materials and how do you work with recycled materials too. So one thing about 3D printing is really interesting is that you can actually also work with biodegradable PLA materials, or you can work with materials which can be recycled and created into new filaments which can be reprinted into new pieces of wearables and garments. So I think that's an interesting part for the future of 3D printing and fashion too, which shouldn't be left out, I think, which is really interesting. However, most of the machines, which are most of the technologies what we currently use within the haute couture and also within the pieces which I have been involved in, are rather printed with non-biodegradable materials or non-recycled materials, because that's not, I guess, the main emphasis. But the innovative thing about it is that how can you work with new techniques which transform fashion in a very novel way? So how can you work without seams, because cutting patterns get eliminated with 3D printing technology? How do you work with integrating traditional means and methods? How do you work with traditional craftsmanship and techniques which are used in haute couture houses? So I think that's an interesting thing where the 3D printing becomes more and more integrated within wearables and fashion.
Awesome. So for me, what's so exciting right now in fashion and materials is that finally we're having a pretty severe wake-up call as an industry around the concept of sustainability. It's no longer a fringe, radical, esoteric concept that we need to make our clothes in a way that allows our survival as a species to be really possible. And a lot of what we're talking about around the space of innovations is with materials that aren't necessarily the lowest impact, to say the least, but there are even solutions within that. So polymers can be integrated with catalysts that allow them to biodegrade. And we definitely want to enable future state 3D technologies, 3D printing technologies to use materials that are of the lowest impact. It's one thing to have a zero waste garment, but if you make it of toxic garbage, it's still creating problems. So it is really exciting that we've hit, or we're nearing a tipping point actually in the fashion industry after this really long, slow climb of the last 20 years. We've recently had some reports issued and some serious materials scarcity on the horizon that's driving a fundamental shift in the way even CFOs are looking at the future of fashion. So the bottom line now is impacted if we stay the course of current toxic status quo manufacturing, which is looking like a severe problem for fashion in the next 10 years, meaning huge loss of EBITDA across the boards in the industry. On the flip side, if we go the right course, and this just came out in this Pulse of the Fashion Industry report from the Boston Consulting Group, released at the Copenhagen Fashion Summit a couple weeks ago, they're saying it's 162 billion euro upside for the industry if we go in this direction of circularity, which is this idea of closing the loop on all of our raw materials. So for me, that's what's most exciting. We really need it. Future generations need it.
Yeah, Arthur here. Well, just to backtrack, I mean, I make antimicrobial athletic medical scrubs. So I try to make medical scrubs really cool. I try to make antimicrobial cool. And the way that I've been able to do that is by partnering with a biomaterials company that makes a new silver embedded yarn. They're based out of North Carolina, and they were a new startup, and they were looking for a way to penetrate the market. And I came in there and I pitched them an idea about a couple of years ago, something that I had for about 6 years. I came up with the idea for the company while I was working in the ER as a trauma technician, and I just wanted to create something better and beneficial for my teammates. And I saw the future in silver, and I saw Lululemon start to use it inside a lot of their materials. And I was looking at the biocidal mechanisms and its effectiveness against bacteria. And I knew that I had to put that in medical scrubs. It didn't make any sense. We wash our hands as healthcare professionals 60 to 80 times a year, but what about our clothing? Then when you start to look at the research on it, you find out that clothing is indeed a vector spreading other bacteria. And what differentiates the conductive material is this is silver, then a topical antimicrobial is that it's permanent. And and I think the beauty of all this and the innovation is that I'm nobody. Like I don't have a fancy degree. Like it's like I'm a passionate fool who was hell bent on creating a solution-driven product for the people I care about. And through a 2-year process, we were able to do that. We worked with NCSU's College of Textiles Engineering. We worked with a lot of their students and their faculty to develop our approach. Remember, you discussed new approaches. I think that was the biggest challenge that I had going into there, was the novelty of this fabric. Trying to find a fabric mill in order to work with a startup entrepreneur like me, who doesn't. I don't have the vernacular. Someone within the background. I have the idea. I just didn't really have the know-how. They were influential in helping me begin that approach. In order to find those right blends and turn a concept into a reality. But when it was said and done, it actually happened. And if somebody like me can take one of these amazing yarns, one of these products out here, like with that Recover, right? That product is out there, but what if somebody else wants to do something cool like that and make a Kickstarter campaign out of it? And we want to create that and brand it ourselves. We might have a different channel, a different avenue for something like that can have those same benefits. But how do you do that? Well, you can now. I think with technology and marketing and I remember when your interview that you did with Charlie, he was saying that anybody can do this now. And we launched in January after 2 years. And now we're in 48 states and 9 different countries and 150 hospitals. And we have an incredible social following on Instagram. I really just try to tap into the medical culture in order to bring this out. And I think the greatest part about it is that we've taken some of these products here, which are solution driven, and we've put that into a product now that when other healthcare workers are wearing this inside of a hospital, it could very well indeed prevent bacteria from being cross-contaminated from a healthcare worker to a patient, which kills over 75,000 patients a year with hospital infections and infects over 755,000 patients just within the hospital. So with more and more people that are wearing this, then our mission is to decrease healthcare-associated infections. And I think the beauty about this is that it all started just from an idea, and I think that's where the true innovation of all these yarns that are coming around.
So curious, I want to ask both of you. I mean, you're both in the area of really commercializing some of these things, and so what are the challenges in getting that to market? And maybe some tips.
Wow.
How does that actually happen?
Challenges. It's kind of infinite when you talk about brand new materials in the space. It's one thing if you're substituting organic cotton for conventional or recycled polyester for virgin. But when you're bringing out really new materials, you know, or in some cases very old materials like a recycled cotton, in a system that's so much higher quality than what the perceived market understanding of recycled cotton is, it's really difficult. You have to break through all these layers of trust and prove over and over the applications are real and the potential of this product is real. And on top of that, you have to perform like a virgin product. You have to have a cost that competes with or is lower than. And I can tell you from my work with some of the big footwear companies, it has to perform better on top. So we're not just checking these boxes of lower impact anymore. We want everything, or the market does. So it's difficult to just place a new product in a market, even with a ton of marketing budget behind it, all the promotion in the world. It takes years. And that's been part of the struggle of sustainability in fashion is the calendars that the industry moves on, you know, designing products historically 18 months before they even hit market. Thankfully that's changing. But we're really beginning to see the uptake of some of these new things, and it's only after a lot of effort really showing and proving their value.
May I add something? So me coming from the educational angle perspective, right? So every day, so I've been doing what I'm doing now for 9 years, researching new innovative materials. I established and created the Innovative Materials Collection at FIDM, but I see every day we have tours, people coming through, they never have heard of anything like that. So it really starts with education. Education in kindergarten, education at high school, or where else not. So sometimes I think, so we are a small group of people, you know, we meet each other everywhere, all around the world, kind of when we, how you say in German, you're cooking your own soup, you know, but we need to change something in regards to education, that people really wake up what's going on. So that's the big challenge, and maybe Julia, you are a lecturer at UCLA, maybe you can say something.
So maybe not so much about the educational part, but to add on the challenging topic. So since before we were talking about the opportunities or what we are excited about.
Hello?
So if we talk about challenges, I think there are 4 things which are really important when you think about 3D printing and fashion. So there's price, there is performance of the material, there's time, and there's expertise. So often I think it's communicated that 3D printing is this really novel technology where you can just press print and it comes out of the machine. And I think that's a total wrong misinterpretation of what 3D printing in fashion really is, because it takes about, I would say, a lot of hours into how do you design these things digitally. There's a lot of expertise which go into those. Then the price of the 3D printing is still very high in relationship to other materials. And the time, so often when you think about fashion and the rhythm of fashion, what it has, and how quickly turnaround season by season products are being approached, I would say the technology is still kind of trying to keep up with the speed and the challenges of this. So I would say those are the challenges from my perspective in the field of when you think about how do you bring the 3D printing more into the marketing of products, for example. And I mean, from an educational point of view, I'm always really interested to hear how fashion schools actually approach the working with these materials, because my background is not in fashion. I'm an architect, so I'm kind of working cross-disciplinary, and I feel that in the education I've been approached a lot of times from fashion schools of how do you actually work with these materials, what expertise are you needing. But it's more within, I would say, almost the architectural field that I get invited to speak about the projects and so on. So it's more the architecture and the maker scene rather than the actual, I would say, fashion education. And we have talked about this before.
I think it's the value-based purchasing impact, of the product. I pitched this to Kaiser Permanente. I pitched my product to UCLA. I showed them the evidence-based studies. They loved everything that they were seeing, but then it got into, well, how much does your product cost? And and I'm competing against medical scrubs that probably cost them like $10, and mine, because I use a silver embedded fabric and a proprietary and moisture wicking and yada yada, they ain't $10. So, but what I tried to explain to them was, they're 4 times the cost but 10 times the value because this is what they can do. And they're like, great, well, how do you quantify it? How do we know? And I think that was, that was my challenge, and what I ended up finding was how do we essentially prove that value? And then there's also because honestly, I wouldn't be able to sell I wouldn't have the sales that I have just by using the yarn, because there had been a style and a branding element with it in order for my customers to connect. So you can have the greatest stuff in the world out there, but if you don't have the brand behind it to facilitate that connection, then it's just a great material.
I would like to add another frustration of mine. We're doing research almost every day, so I reach the limits very fast. So because companies don't want to collaborate, they're not transparent, they're secretive. Then I mentioned the hype, everything's been hyped. So one frustration was really with, I must say, with Pinatex. Everybody was on it 2 years ago, and we tried to get samples, and so it was not very fun. And I really want to provide information for our students to educate them, and I'm wondering why is there such a resistant secrecy or even just getting samples. I don't analyze and don't pull the fabrics apart, so anyhow. So I think that this is a thing that has to change as well. So collaboration, and willing to educate.
No, you got to jump in one of the chairs. Okay, so and I want to encourage anyone else
Yeah,
that's
feel
speaking.
free.
Connie, I would love for you to weigh in. If you got a moment too.
I remember the bamboo craze, the bamboo material. That was so exciting. I went out and bought shirts, and then I heard what happened. Right? It was the process was worse, I guess, or I don't know the details. Maybe about bamboo
Bamboo,
clothing.
Oh yeah, I know the hype.
I know.
Those are my first prototypes.
Was that your first product?
Pick anyone.
I also want to ask you, it sounds like you have the perfect material, but what are some of the downsides or challenges, like washing? Can you only wash it so many times? Or, I don't know.
I think some of the challenges is some of the washing factors. I mean, because it's silver and because it's a performance knit, it's no dryer sheets are involved, there was some issues a little bit with the shrinkage, because it's a new fabric, so just trying to play with something that was the unknown was kind of an issue, but as far as other things, I mean, I'm not doing anything as novel as the rest of it. It's really polyester, and then there's pure thread, which is the silver fiber that we use. But I think just because it was so new and testing it, there could be issues that come up. I don't know about that.
I'll help you with that. Get your part later.
Yeah,
I'll help you.
please.
Read 72 and 7?
Yes.
No, that's
yes,
right.
go
Sorry.
on. I'm actually a textile engineer, and I work with a lot of advanced materials.
And one of the major problems we have is making sure that we not only have a great idea, but that it's scalable and repeatable, that we can put it on mass scale. Because we're working with big brands, they're selling tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of pieces, that we want to make sure that we're going to be doing the same thing. Every person that's going to buy this is going to have the same experience. So I think from this discussion, I think one of the main things I found was really interesting was 3D printing. What about some of these couture companies developing some of these designs and that somebody can sell it and they can print it at home, that type of thing, where you sell the file type of thing. I thought I'm really excited about that.
Well, my question is for Julia. What's your failure rate on 3D printing?
You gotta jump in.
Oh, yeah, you I just jumped myself out.
Well, I actually have to ask you, what do you mean by failure rate?
No, I mean,
I do 3D knitting, so I know that if I'm going to knit a whole garment, I might have a 15% damage ratio, so 85% come off great, and I might have to throw 15% away.
Well, I would say in 3D printing it depends on not so much on me as the designer, the failure rate, but more on the technology side. So I would say for the whole garment, I have a 0 failure rate.
Wow.
Because if I have a failure rate on the whole garment, I lose a lot of money. So like printing one whole piece, you can't have a failure rate, 0. But on prototyping, I think there is a lot of prototyping which goes into material testing, understanding thickness levels, understanding tolerances, understanding material performances, understanding how do you design the digital file, how does it come out of the printer. So I would say in the testing phase there is failure rate in there, but on the final product, none. I think that from the point of view what you were saying, to get these technologies into the millions, we are a little bit far away from that with this technology because it's just not yet there. And until people have the opportunity to have these printers at home which can actually print with those materials which can be used in wearable technology, is also different because the printers which you can buy in the stores, most of them do not print with those materials which are as advanced as they could become wearable. So, but I think that there's a potential, and I think that we might soon see more 3D printing in the apparel, but maybe not so much on the larger scale.
I'm seeing it in shoes right now.
You mean the sportswear shoes?
Adidas is opening a speed factory in Atlanta, and they're printing the soles, and they're actually making the entire shoe right there, completely. And the shoe that we did is completely 3D finished off the machine with no cutting, no sewing, 0 waste.
Wow.
I have seen this.
Zero.
I have seen it. Let's see if it really works out.
So I want to jump in on that.
Grab the
Glad
other
I have
microphone.
the three of you. You mentioned
Can you grab the
how
microphone?
you feel like everything's held to a higher standard. Not only do you have to meet the same expectations for wearability of the virgin material, but then you have to go further and show that it's better in this way and that way. And what I'm kind of hearing here maybe is this combination of, is it ready to be produced in scale? Can I produce it in the small volumes I'd like to in order to explore these new technologies? And what I'm hearing is, in my mind, sort of like perhaps an electric car argument, which is, it'll be successful when it lives up to everybody's standards and exceeds them in some critical ways. And when we finally get the technology out of the geeks' hands and then show in small volumes like they did with some of the early electric cars that they really can be great cars and not just electric cars. And then finally, once you do all that, then you get to the point where you can say, hey, everybody gets to take advantage of this. This isn't a bespoke Met Gala only material. it's not a technology that's going to have a high failure rate, we can actually get it out there and we can make each person's shoe to the right size, which I would love, as opposed to buying it off the shelf. Is that, I mean,
Yeah,
you guys, is that kind of where we are right now?
Yeah, that's right on. A lot of the key words here are coming out in this last couple of minutes, but what you're talking about is market disruption through a technology that's finally ready, scalable, and higher performing in every way. And it's no different with materials, actually. When you find that sweet spot, it works instantaneously, and market adoption is super rapid. If there's any iota of lack there, it's picked up by niche areas in the market who need that solution, or who find some, some aesthetic benefit or some other attribute that they really love. It could just be the incredible low impacts of a certain platform that gives it uptake in certain areas, but it is about collaboration and awareness at a consumer level. These are all things that are brought up. That's what's really driving the true pull off the shelf. And then scalability. And there's been a few experiences I've had recently where we have amazing platforms, but if you want to make 1 million yards of this fabric in fluorescent green with no dye, it's actually not possible because we can't find enough waste in that specific color. So what's your answer? And your answer might be to work with a smaller company. We don't need 10 million t-shirts in fluorescent green out of this material right now. Maybe in a few years. But disruption, collaboration, awareness, scalability, these are the words that I wrestle with and embrace every day. And I think those are really key topics here.
I think who would have ever put Levi's and Google together? So the collaboration, these types of almost dichotomies in the market. So I thought that was a really good example that we showed. And I'm waiting to see this new commuter jacket to see if the technology is invisible. Because this is what we're hearing from a lot of the companies, is that they don't want to see the technology, they want it to work. But they want it to be a good jacket because it's a good jacket. They want it to look cool, but they also want all the other things to be washable and things like that you would have for a normal jacket.
So that actually brings up a really interesting point in wearables. One of the areas where I think we've had probably the least success in wearables and are the most visible is in prosthetics, which is a field that I've been working in for some time. The movement in prosthetics for decades was to get it as lifelike as possible. And what they're finding today is you don't quite want it as lifelike as possible. People are actually quite happy to have something that looks synthetic to a certain extent. Maybe that'll be a trend, maybe that won't stay, but I'm curious, I mean, is this textile revolution, is this about making things that are sort of transparent and visible? It's as good as the original and better in some ways, but it feels and looks just like it and performs just like it? Or is it really about taking a material and doing something that you can't get out of a traditional cotton or traditional wool? I mean, they're both open, but I'm curious if it's one or the other that finally makes it the impact that we're talking about.
We get one person to weigh in, and then we'll rapidly find out.
Actually, I was going to go back to the jacket. You're talking. Actually, I was at South by Southwest, and I tried on the jacket, and I talked with them about it because my question to them was like, okay, so how long does it last? So like, oh no, it can last like 80 washes or this or that. But I said, I'm not talking about that because electronics will break down, and have you actually tested wear and tear? Like, people really bicycling every day for work. Does that have the longevity? Do you know that? How much has it been tested? They could not answer these questions. They were going around it. So to me, even for myself, like I'm a performance artist and I create 3D wearables, electronics, and I perform with them. And all the time I have to think about like wearability, like am I movement? How much am I moving? And like a lot of there are some processes now, of course, with 3D printing that it is flexible and stuff like that. But it's also like not on a consumer level as much as other. No, it's not. I've always asked that. It's leather. Like with in thinking of 3D printing and using electronics and like how much are we going to have like the durability and long term. So we have to think about how much the use is. you know, and that's one of the things I think that these companies aren't thinking about. Yeah, washes, but that's not electronics, like where, you know, they break down. All the time I'm having to like fix my electronics, you know, it's like.
Yeah, he went into his car and went soldered.
Yeah, it's just now.
Because he has a soldering iron in his car.
Yeah, he does it.
I have one too.
Oh, yeah, always bring a soldering iron, like.
That's how you
Is he gonna bring us home?
Yeah, well, you brought up a great point, you know, how long are these things gonna last when we talk about these new technologies? Maybe even more importantly, what's their next life? And if we're not planning for that as we design an innovative new product, we're actually not really creating anything innovative at all. It's just more take, make, waste, more extractive economy.
Ephemeral.
Yeah, so we need circular, we need regenerative. It's not even enough to be sustainable anymore because that's simply sustaining impacts that will take us out eventually. We actually need to fix things. So if I could leave you with that, that's great.